Welcome to this week's edition of Paradox Network starring Mr. Gunor Singh and Professor Colonel Cathcart. Today, these two will be reviewing the movie Catch-22.
Hello, fellow humans. We're pleased to have you on Paradox with us, reviewing the movie Catch 22. I am Mr. Singh, writing for CNN.
That's not big. You gotta be big. Or go home. Be like me. The one and only Professor Cathcart. Writing for ABC News.
We are here.
We are here today to discuss the incredibly sad and sadistic.
Sadistic. There's no sand.
That's what I said. The incredibly sad and inhumane movie Catch-22. The movie Catch-22 is based on a war novel written by Joseph Heller, set during the times of World War II, and takes place on the Mediterranean island of Pianosa in 1944, where John Yossarian is a bombardier serving under the indecisive and ambitious Colonel Cathcart. Yours truly. Of course. Who continually raises the number of missions the men are required to fly before the tours of duty are completed. Although he flies and lives with the men, Yossarian is marked as an outsider by the fact that many of the men think he is insane. Yossarian holds one true logical idea, that he should try to preserve his life, thus avoiding any actions that would endanger him. Yet, even though he is determined to save his own life at all costs, he nonetheless cares deeply for the other members of his squadron and is traumatized by their deaths.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. Very necessary info. Yeah. Now, moving on to our personal review of the movie. I think that the war story of Catch 22 disturbingly alternates between deadly serious foreshadowing, a bizarre nonlinear plot, and the horrific conflicts of war with great speed, which makes it not only hard but distressing for the readers to make it through the story.
Wow, so fancy. Anyways,
Whatever. Let's move on to my first point of thesis. When taking into consideration the deadly, serious foreshadowing of the movie, you have to highlight the key parts of the movie where the foreshadowing incredibly alarms the viewers. One foreshadow is in particular is quite intriguing while also unnerving. The death of Snowden. A soldier in Yossarian squad, whose death is heavily foreshadowed but unusually through Yossarian's memories. It is not until Snowden's actual death in the plotline does Yossarian disclose all the details of death, but the foreshadow is very much present. Snowden's death is distressing because of his contribution to Yossarian's character development. Due to Snowden's death, Yossarian realizes the mortality and fragility of man. While all developments help Yossarian grow as a believer of self-perseverance, the depressing truth of a man's life is highlighted over and over again through Snowden's death. The details of Snowden's death further escalate the horror of what Yossarian and all human beings experience during war, which is the realization that death is inevitable. Though the death of Though the very thought of death is very depressing, actually seeing death befall another human in such a horrific way is an entirely different type of terror in its own separate category.
damn, good one. Anyways, enough of this bum. My first point of thesis that the satire in Catch-22 critiques war. As we begin, we need to start by spotlighting, putting a real big stage light on the crucial moments in the 1970 film adaptation of the 1961 classic novel Catch 22. The stupidity and vice can be seen in the early parts of the film where Colonel Cathcart and Milo Minderbinder are discussing something for the unit, while completely ignoring a bomber crash landing mere feet from the vehicle. As they drive off, their hats are blown off from the bomber exploding.
Thank you, sir. You see, what I hope to do is to give the men in this squadron the finest cuisine in the entire world. That's really something to shoot at, isn't it? Yes, Milo, it certainly is.
Moving on, we see a bizarre non-linear plot, which greatly contributes to the viewer's confusion and understanding the plot of the story. Since the movie progresses in a non-chronological order, the audience has a hard time understanding the plot development, since the past, present, and future are mixed together in the chaotic world of Catch-22. Taking a look into the plot, we see several examples, like when the narrative begins with the Usurian's first sight of the chaplain, which is in the hospital.
I've never really seen a chaplain before. I had no idea chaplains looked like that.
Afterwards, details of the events previous to his hospitalization occur. These events are introduced in the middle of the movie, simply as what happens just before Usurian goes into the hospital. This roller coaster of a ride in this mere summary gives the roller coaster of a ride this mere summary gives to readers is enough to make anyone realize that the plotline of this story is too complex. It is because of this complexity that the audience has to work unnecessarily hard just to understand the flow of the movie. How hard will viewers have to think in order to understand everything else in the story?
Anyhow, my second point of thesis is that the comedic paradoxes add to the plot, making it more interesting and keeping the viewer on their toes. This can be seen in the film where Doc Danica, incredible Doc, by the way, shout out to him, explains that if Captain Yossarian wants to stop flying missions, then he is fit and able to fly more missions, proving his sanity.
Sure, Catch-22. Anyone who wants to get out of combat is really crazy, so I can't ground him.
This is twisted with a paradox because the way this Catch-22 situation is structured. Only the insane continue to fly, but you'd be sane to not fly. So you can't escape the service. I'm watching you. Sarian,
Huh? Oh,
are you paying attention?
huh? Well, what time is it? Has it been 2 hours yet?
Get up, it's your turn.
Already? Huh. Must have been 3 hours then.
Just shut up and do it.
The last reason I do not recommend this movie is because the characters in Catch-22 are caught in a web of absurd rules and regulations that make it nearly impossible for them to flee the battlefield, therefore highlighting the horrific conflicts soldiers are faced with in war. The characters of the movie are constantly faced with the paradoxical logic of Catch-22, which forces them into life-threatening situations. The stupidity of the generals and authorities is humorous because of the fact that they just wanted to show off. Of course, the stupidity shown is just to emphasize the absurdity of war. For example, Colonel Cathcart, that goes over there, made the squadron go on more missions than they were required to. These missions were basically pointless, and some of the assignments included the bombing of towns that had no industry, enemy bases, or value.
35 missions, for Christ's sake. Now that statistic net has raised the number up to 50. In any other outfit, I would have been rotated after 25. Doc, you gotta help me out. Look.
The evidence proves that the generals and colonels are just pulling publicity stunts and have no real reason for raising the number of missions to a staggering number of 80. Add the logic of Catch-22, you get a perfect death trap, making the number of missions soldiers need to complete even more foolish.
Yeah, I agree. It makes it a death trap. Yeah. Could you do us a favor and remind us of what a Catch-22 is?
No. But since you don't know it, I suppose I.
I'm quite stupid. I already know you don't need to explain it to us.
Uh, Catch-22 involves a mysterious Air Force regulation which asserts that a man is considered insane if he willingly continues to fly dangerous combat missions. But if he makes the formal request to be relieved of such missions, the very act of making the request proves that he is sane, therefore making him eligible to fly another mission, which the generals make the soldiers do. This goes back to my reasoning for why the generals are stupid and why this movie is absurd.
Whoa. Sounds like something you would make up to keep a kid from going outside, which is not stupid. It sounds brilliant.
I think it's time for your last reason, buddy.
Oh, well, thank you. My last point is the dynamic characters add to the plot and alter the outcome of this movie. An example of this can be seen as Captain Yossarian changes throughout the film, slowly losing the will to fight and the ever-growing urge to abandon. Wanting to This is shown to contrast from the start of the film to the end, overall showing viewers the insanity of war, how you go crazy and lose your mind, fighting a fight you can no longer bear to fight.
Finally, now that we have a professor out of the way,
Oh, shut your trap, stupid. You ain't know nothing about my intelligence.
I know enough, Captain Obvious. It's a card.
Whatever. To conclude, I give this movie 4 blown up bombers out of 5.
You would know about those bombers, huh?
The 1970 film Catch-22 is heavy with satire and comedy paradoxes, while containing dynamic characters that are used to bring life into this dark war film. If you like war or satirical comedy, watch this movie. It's for you to watch people like me. This movie is great for that as well. Because that will lead to people like me reviewing it. Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, I do not recommend this movie because of the fact that it disturbs its audience with this incredibly serious foreshadowing, an overly complex plot, and the presentation style of the horrific and absurd conflicts of war. We see how the foreshadowing of the movie disturbs the audience with its comical irony, labeling the movie as immoral and inhumane by the fact that the movie wants us to laugh at the death of another human being. Colonel Cathar. Next, we see a bizarre, non-linear plot, which greatly contributes to the viewer's confusion with the flow of the story. Last but not least, the greatest contributor to the reader's distress is Colonel Cathcart. I mean, the way the horrific conflicts of war are presented, the sheer absurdity of the rules and regulations of Catch-22 freak out the audience, therefore unsettling viewers even further. Overall, we know where Catch-22 lacks a humane perspective and rather highlights the worst, most disgusting parts of war, like our friend with the 2 cigars here. Of course, the decision is up to you if you're that kind of person. Well, that's it from us.
Thank you for joining us today on Paradox. I'm
Uh,
Professor Cathcart with ABC.
and I'm Mr. Singh with CNN 10 News.
See you
Have a
next
good
time.